That's a better Gold Coast brim. So they're all after it. And there's one for the recovery. A lot of shrimp lures out on the market that have got this design. He's got that, look at that. He has got that, both trebles in the mouth. And he wanted it that bad because I cooked the hook up, I cooked the hook set, missed it, and then one of them out of the school came out and slammed it again. Welcome back to my lure box, folks. I'm back on the Gold Coast just for a couple of days before we head up to Brisbane for Christmas, but I'm desperate to get out here and start throwing some more lures. Basically where it all started for me as a boy, just over on the other bank there's where I threw my first lures in Queensland, and I still love this place. It's full of fish. I've got a whole heap of lures to try in about an hour and a half while the kids are down at the beach with Lauren and all their friends catching up. So let's go and do it. Boy, am I excited to get this going. Yep, there's one. Just pulled out of these shadows. There's a team of brim coming out. Look at them, their backs are out of the water. They're all after it. And there's one for the recovery. Now I've got to share this with you because this is one of the toughest things to happen when you're out filming YouTube videos. That I've been out here for about an hour flicking this little Shimma shrimp around, putting a review together for you guys, and working out what I like about it, what I don't like about it. There's a couple of things that I think make it difficult to fish with the way I'm doing it now. Going a little spiky. But I've just deleted my SD card, the whole thing, lost some stuff from our trip, and the salty display on the back sometimes has a lag, and I just fully failed at it. So I had some great stuff, some fantastic hookups, but I've lost that. But what I can bring to you over the next sort of 10 minutes is some tips on how to fish these and how I think they're going to come into their own. So have a look at the profile on this. This is the Shimma shrimp that's just been released by Berkley, and it's got two trebles, you can see that there, and a beautiful little true tail design for a shrimp. Now there's a lot of shrimp lures out on the market that have got this design, but what brings this thing into its own is the fact that it's like a vibe. It's basically a vibing lure, but it's got a really beautiful fall. So it's got a slow falling action that sort of sits it like that on the way down. Beautiful little realistic fall, and it's a lot slower than a lot of vibes, especially this smaller one, and it should be because you know you're going to be chasing the smaller fish on this. But it's fairly well balanced, so it's true on the fall. It doesn't move around in circles on the way down, so it's been designed and weighted to be like a vibe. But I've been kept bringing it out here because I wanted to test it out on bass, brim and flathead, just to get a feel for what it's like. These are going to catch trevally and jacks in the estuaries as well, absolutely no question. Let me talk you through how I've been fishing it. So I'll just get back on the edge, start flicking along and show you how I've been using it, and give you some ideas or some insights on where I think it's going to go well. I said I've caught about half a dozen fish so far this morning, and what I've been doing is just fishing really quietly. It's the middle of the day actually, it's not this morning, it's the middle of the day. Sun's right overhead, all the shadows have receded, so there's not as much action as what you would expect in these canals on the Gold Coast during the middle of the day. They love it early morning, late afternoon, but you can still get after them, and there's schools that patrol these little retaining wall edges, especially when there's a bit of water on them. And I've enjoyed a bit of that this morning, though I've lost it. There's still a little bit of water there, and I'm just sort of picking off a few brim as I go along. Now, the best part about this presentation is my stealth. During the middle of the day, it becomes really clear, the sunlight penetrates through the water, the brim can see for ages. Even post flooding, it's cleared up in here, and the viz is pretty good. So there's a real advantage there if you can do it quietly in a kayak, especially if it's motorised, or quietly in your tinny. come along and stealthily throw. So light line, I've got a little 1000 Stradic with 6-pound braid and 7-foot rod here. That's super feely, so I can feel any little hits that I'm picking up from these brim as I go along. Now I'm cast and retrieve fishing this thing, and to be fair to it, it's built like a vibe, and so it should probably be more so fished like a vibe, which is vertically. I think that's where it's going to come into its own, but I know people are going to want to fish this and cast and retrieve it, and you know, that's the style of fishing that I do a lot more of, so I wanted to see how it goes doing that and whether it still can pick a bite up. It's got a little bit more subtle of an action than I expected on the vibe. You can still feel it, but you kind of got to get it going to get that shudder on the way back to the kayak or the boat. And one of the problems is, if you have a look, when you start doing that, it starts to get fouled up. So it's a little bit of a frustration I've had this morning, is that skip casting this thing and then fast retrieving and hopping it, it does get fouled up, and you could probably argue that that's not the kind of retrieve that it's really been designed for. So to be fair to it, vertically hopping it or casting, letting it sink and hopping it back to the boat or to the bank is probably going to be a lot less of a problem with the foul ups. But what I've been doing is I've still been fishing this sort of vertically at times, because it's the middle of the day. A lot of the brim move from right beside the pontoon and go and sit deep down at the bottom, and so to get those brim bites, I'm sort of dropping it down and then trying to move up off the bottom and hopping it back to the boat that way. It hasn't been as effective doing that as what I'd hoped, and a little bit of a tell for me is when I'm watching brim, how often they're coming to it the moment it hits the water. Okay, so there are some tiny little prawn imitations that I love to fish with for brim, and when they hit the water, generally brim do come out and inspect it or fight over it and that sort of thing. So it's not happening as often with this. Just missed a bite there, but I have still picked up a couple of brim doing that. So generally, like really targeted fishing in along these edges where these brim are patrolling is how I'm picking up the bite now with this. But on the fall, these things are great. I think really for me, like, I bought this thinking about flathead bass and brim, but the bigger ones, the bigger size, this is a 65, it comes in 100 and 120 mil. The bigger sizes, they're going to be even a safer sort of a fall, like, because it's a bigger bait, you can get the fall right and all of the action right with it. They're going to be even more convincing, and they're going to do some damage on barramundi 100%. They're going to be fantastic on the barra, especially schooled fish where you're using your sounder to get down and present a shrimp imitation, a shrimp profile. I think that's where these things are really going to fire. So the bigger profile, I'm going to have to get my hands on them and in time, go after bass and things with them. But when I walked into the tackle store yesterday, I was so excited, and I was coming brim fishing today. I was like, oh, I've just got to try one of these things and see how they go. So I think maybe the guys that fish tournaments, or guys who are really serious about their bass and brim fishing, that go after schools of fish, I reckon fishing this thing, they're going to be able to work out some other techniques, a little bit more nuanced styles, where they're finding fish on the sounder, schooled fish, and presenting this to fish that might be pressured and are really looking for a slower, stalled retrieve right in front of their faces with little hops. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture that with my GoPros to show you the action of this. It's all over the social media pages. It's like all their advertising is showing how this thing works at a vertical or slightly angled hop, and it's fantastic. I'd love to hear your comments, what you've been doing, if you've been fishing this and how it's been going. I think hopping over flats, yeah, for sure, for flathead. It has worked on the brim, although not as a targeted lure choice for me fishing it now. Would I pick this up and go for this one in preference of some of the other tiny little brim baits? And I like the fact that these hooks are so catchy. These little hooks are super catchy, but it does foul up a fair bit when you cast and retrieving it. He came back again. And he's a better fish too. This is one of the better ones for the session. The first two fish that I got this morning were about this size. This one's a chunk. And I'm guessing there was a team of them there. Let's see, I should probably do the right thing and just net this fish. So that's a better Gold Coast brim. It's about that 300. He's a real chunky one. Just love how aggressive they are. He's got that. Look at that. He has got that. Both trebles in the mouth. And he wanted it that bad because I cooked the hook up. I cooked the hook set, missed it, and then one of them out of the school came out and slammed it again. Have a look down his throat, eh? Look at that. It's the value of these really catchy little tournament grade owner trebles. Owner produced such good treble hooks, and even at this really small size on this little lure, they're super catchy, so you get them. The trick is having your drag set so that you don't rip the fish's lips off when you're trying to fish heavy structure, because you want to get the fish out. And I nearly got snapped around that barnacle encrusted pole, but really catchy hooks at least let you get a hook set on that fish in that really soft part of their lips. Alright, let's keep going. Boy, that one was after that. He was a good fish. It's caught up. This is one of the problems I think this lure's going to deal with, is the frustration of actually hooking itself up. These tiny little trebles, it's very difficult because they're so light. Even when you cast it and when it lands, they're happy to move around the bait. It's not like there's enough body in the bait to just push the treble back down. Tap again. So it really might be where specifically for vibing, where you're dropping it down and you're not hurling it through the air, trying to reduce the amount of movement it has on the way into the water. Casting doing, but it's getting hooked up. Just had the biggest epic fail. I'm so gutted. I just lost all the morning's footage.
No.
Yeah. And so I've just run another review now. I'm so frustrated. Everything just deleted. The display selected everything on my last tap instead of selecting one more file. And there was the delay in the display catching up to my fingers. So frustrating. But I've tried to pull a review together in the last 15 minutes. Yeah, thanks darling. I'll just see what I can do, but yeah. But anyway, I'll head in, I'll come and see ya.
Okay, mate.
See ya.